Hello, ladies and gentlemen, James here. Hope you're doing well, doing fine, doing well. Well, in this video, what I'm about to show you is dealing with interrelation, right? The myths and, the issues about interracial relationship and how people, they use it for division. They use it, try to use it biblically. And then, what is the problem socially being part of an interracial couple? So if you're in an interracial union, interracial couple, this video dedicated to you. Whether you're a black man, black woman with another person, or a white man, a white woman with a person, and any other.
What should Christians believe about interracial marriage? Well, first of all, interracial marriage assumes there's more than one race of people. Actually, there's only one race of people. The Bible makes it very, very clear that all human beings are descendants of two people, Adam and Eve. If that is true, then biologically there's only one race. 1 Corinthians 15:45 says Adam was the first man. Genesis 3:20 says Eve was to be the mother of all the living. The Bible makes it very clear there was only one man and one woman to start with. Now Acts 17:26 says God made from one man all nations of men to dwell on the face of the earth. We all go back to one man. Biologically then there's only one race, which is very, very interesting, because in the year 2000 the Human Genome Project, which was actually headed by an atheist, they collected DNA samples from different groups of people all over the world, and then they released their findings to the world. There's only one race. Of course there's only one race. They're only confirming what the Bible teaches, that we all go back to Adam and Eve. Now, why do we see so many different groups of people on the earth today? What about different colors? Aren't there black people and white people? Well, first of all, there are no black people and there are no white people. Technically, every human being has the same skin color. It's a pigment called melanin. There's other pigments, but the main pigment is melanin, which is a brown pigment. And you can have a lot of it, you can have a little bit of it. It depends on your genetics. And so you can be a dark shade, you can be a light shade, you can be anywhere in between. Actually, there's many examples of twins, one dark, one light. It's just because of the genetics of the parents and the combination that the twins received in regard to how much melanin that they would have. And it was the event of the Tower of Babel in the Bible that actually caused the differences we see in people groups around the world, because when God gave different languages, probably about 70 different languages, because Genesis 10 lists the table of nations there, and there's 70 different families that moved away from each other according to their languages, because God had judged their rebellion there at the time of the Tower of Babel. And as a result of that, because those groups were isolated depending on who married who, which combinations of genes survived, etc., how much they did or did not mix with others, you end up with distinct people groups but not races. That means there's no such thing as interracial marriage biologically. That means there's no such thing as biracial children either. There's only one race children, because we all go back to Adam and Eve. Now, there is an interracial marriage the Bible does speak against, but it's not biological, it's spiritual. In other words, don't be unequally yoked. A Christian should never knowingly marry a non-Christian. That is the interracial marriage the Bible speaks about, and it's a catastrophe for families, because then it destroys passing a spiritual legacy on from one generation to the next. I've actually had pastors tell me, well, wait a minute, what about the fact that God told the Israelites not to marry the Canaanites? Weren't they keeping the races separate? That had nothing to do with biology. It had everything to do with the spiritual state of people's hearts, because the Canaanites were pagans. That's why the Israelites were told not to marry Canaanites. But remember, when you have Rahab, who was a Canaanite, the Bible tells us that she's in the genealogy leading to Jesus, and she's even mentioned in Hebrews 11 as a great person of faith. How could that be? Because she stopped being a Canaanite spiritually and became an Israelite spiritually, believing in the one true God. Then she's free to marry someone who believes in the one true God. In other words, it had to do with the spiritual state of their heart, had nothing to do with biology. So there's no such thing as interracial marriage biologically. Hey, where did these unbiblical ideas about skin tone come from? Many of the false ideas that exist in our culture today can be traced back to Darwin's ideas on evolution. How? Well, watch this video to learn more. Hello.
Walk with History today is going to talk about the power of love and its ability to change history from Central Point, Virginia.
I think that marrying who you want to is a right that no man should have anything to do with. It's a God-given right, I think.
Mildred Loving married the boy next door, Richard Loving. Richard Loving is a construction worker, Mildred Loving the daughter of a sharecropper. They were born and raised in Caroline County, Virginia, where white and colored people seem unaware of the racial prejudice that exists in much of the country. The Lovings didn't know that it was a crime for a white person to marry a Negro in Virginia. They found out the hard way.
This is the marker at the corner of Sparta Road and Richmond Turnpike, 301. Richard and Mildred Loving. They fell in love in June 1958 and were married in Washington, D.C. on June 2nd, 1958. And they were arrested for violating the state laws against interracial marriage on July 12th, 1958. Sparta Road and Passing Road. This is basically Central Point, Virginia. You have St. Stephen's Baptist Church. There's the cemetery where the Lovings are buried. There's the school right behind me, and looks like it was probably the local grocery store or convenience store, a country store. And this was the area. Their families both grew up in Caroline County, and even when I sit here in the cemetery, there's a lot of Jeters, and there's a lot of Birds, last names, and that is Mildred's family names. They met in high school, and they fell in love in high school, and they decided to get married in 1958. But this area of Virginia, this is a Central Point, this had been a race-mixed community since the 19th century. So this was kind of an area where people were interracially dating and marrying and really bothering anybody. So when the Lovings get married in June of 1958, they go up to Washington, D.C. to get married because the Jim Crow laws here wouldn't let them get married in Virginia. So after they get married, they come back here and settle down in a house that isn't actually too far from here, behind the cemetery here. And they settle down, but not for long. In July of 1958, their house is raided by a sheriff from the county. Local police raided their home in the early morning of July 11th, 1958. The officers found the Lovings sleeping in their bed, and Mildred pointed to their marriage certificate on the bedroom wall, and they were told the certificate is not valid in Virginia. The Lovings were both arrested, put into jail. Richard was bailed out early, and Mildred spent a couple days in jail because they were concerned that they were going to go back to cohabitation. And Mildred was only released from jail in the custody of her father. They were charged under Virginia Code, which prohibited interracial couples from being married out of state and then returning to Virginia. Punishable by prison 1 to 5 years. So on January 6th of 1959, so this is about 6 months later, the Lovings pleaded guilty to cohabitating as man and wife against the peace, but the sentence was suspended on the condition that the couple leave Virginia and not return together for 25 years.
And his sister got a bonding company to get him out. And they told the bonding company if they tried to get me out that they would put him back in jail.
So after this conviction, they settle in Washington, D.C. And then what happens is, anytime they try to come down here to Central Point, where all their family is, like I told you, there's a lot of family in this graveyard that's related. The sheriff and the police would try to catch them again. And they could only come down if they came down separately. They couldn't come down together. And it was just this game of cat and mouse. So Mildred decided to do something about it. In 1963, frustrated by their inability to travel together to visit their families, and it came to a crescendo when their son was hit by a car. Now, he wasn't injured, but he had no place to play. He was out in the street, and he got hit by a car. And Mildred, being completely frustrated, in 1963, so this is about 5 years after their marriage, Mildred decides to write a letter in protest to the Attorney General at the time, who is Robert F. Kennedy. And Kennedy refers her letter to the ACLU, the American Civil Liberties Union, and that puts her in touch with an attorney, Cohen, who actually practices out of Alexandria, Virginia. And they file a motion on behalf of the Lovings. He requests that the Loving sentences be set aside on the grounds of missegregation statutes ran counter to the 14th Amendment, Equal Protection Clauses. From rural Virginia to urban jungle, the Lovings, you can see the marker, it's on the side of the courthouse right here. During construction, right beside City Hall and the courthouse in the city of Richmond, and they have taken the Loving marker down and propped it up against the building. But the Lovings had to come down here and fight for their right to be married, and they were actually, again, denied that privilege of, if they were married and living together in Virginia, they would be arrested. So they were told, if you want to be married, you have to leave, and if you stay here, you will be arrested. But there is a marker here, Loving versus Virginia, just to honor what they did, and they took their fight from a small little town to the big city, then on to the nation. And they're fighting for their right to be married, and ultimately they fought for everyone's right to be married. And what's interesting about the Lovings is they're not very outgoing people. They're not trying to make a ruckus. They're just trying to live their lives. Richard was always very quiet and stoic and didn't have a lot to say. Mildred, she is beautiful and quiet and reserved, but very articulate when she speaks. So the judgment that comes back after that first district court filing says that God created the races and placed them on separate continents. There should be no intermarriage. And this is really what people believed at the time. The Lovings appealed that decision, and then in 1966, that decision is upheld by the Virginia Supreme Court. The Lovings, who are still supported by the ACLU, appealed that state Supreme Court decision to the Supreme Court of the United States.
Wow. I don't want to go too long with that one. Yeah, that's really something. You know, all just to be a human being, loving another human being in the planet. Now I'm going to show you something that if you're interracial couples, this therapist is going to teach you.
That hesitation in your voice just cost you $2
When you
million.
have problems.
You know that you're the expert, but when you speak, you sound...
Welcome to Therapy Explained, where we explain, demystify, and destigmatize mental health and mental health treatment. My name is Denise Planner. I'm a licensed therapist and clinical director of a mental health group practice in California that treats individuals and couples. Today we're going to be talking about some of that work that we do with couples. We have had the privilege of supporting BIPOC individuals, BIPOC couples, and interracial couples through therapy. And while we support couples through very common issues like communication stresses and issues, difficulties, financial stress and pressure, intimacy and love, and also just navigating life together, we find that when we work with interracial couples, there are very unique challenges that come up that we support them through. If you are in an interracial relationship, you might notice that there are some points of tension, miscommunication, misunderstandings, and sometimes you're not really sure where it even came from. And it might make it even more difficult to deal with some of the other things like
managing intimacy and love, family, and other forms of communication, money issues, all of that stuff can be exacerbated or made even more challenging when we take into consideration different cultures and different cultural experiences. Each of the challenges that we'll be sharing today, of course, require their own space to be processed and explored, and each of your own human experiences will also be different. So the best place to process these challenges is in couples therapy and individual therapy if that is also possible. So let's go through the top 5 challenges that we see and guide interracial couples through. Cultural norms. So, of course, if you're in an interracial relationship, that probably also means that you're coming from different cultures, and cultural norms will differ. Some behaviors can be acceptable and appropriate in one culture, but not in the other. For example, how do you talk to and engage with your elders? What are some clothes that are appropriate to be worn at holidays or family gatherings? And the fact that these may differ will add an extra level of challenge when trying to build this relationship. Now, it is possible, and of course, it requires a lot of communication, but knowing that these cultural norms may be different is the first step. Number 2, expectations. You'll find that you each, and maybe even your own separate families, will have different expectations of what your relationship should mean, should look like, and what each of your roles are in a relationship. Because you come from different cultures, there may be that difference in expectation. And again, knowing that there might be a difference is what can prompt us to be able to address it and talk about it before it becomes a misunderstanding. Number 3, family. Speaking of family, families may have different roles in your relationship depending on your culture. Your parents and siblings might be more or less involved in that relationship, and that might be normal and expected. Your extended families might also be a bigger part of your lives as a couple, and how is that going to be navigated will also require acknowledgement that there is a difference and a conversation about what they are and how you can work together to make sure to find a balance that works. Number 4, different languages. Literally, you might also be speaking very different languages, and that leaves room for misunderstanding and miscommunication. When we are translating to a different language, whether it's from the language of our country of origin or from our parents, and then translating to the one that you both share, which might typically be English, there might be something that is being lost in translation. Some words might mean more or might have completely different meaning to each of you, and being able to understand what those differences are can help reduce the amount of miscommunication or misunderstanding between you. And of course, if your parents, grandparents, extended family don't speak the same language as your partner, then that might also be another thing and dynamic to have to navigate. How can you help bridge that and create meaningful relationships when people in the family, in the extended family, speak different languages? And number 5, privilege and race. Okay, I left the easiest one for last. Just kidding. I know this is probably the most challenging and scariest and uncomfortable conversation to have, but talking about privilege and differences in our experiences, our human experiences based on our race, especially when we are talking about living here in the United States, it's not for the purpose of saying you have it easier. It's not about a competition as much as it is about learning to see, validate, and appreciate your partner's experience. Talking about privilege, I mean, even that word can be uncomfortable. Once you hear it, you probably felt your body tense, and now you're thinking, oh gosh, is this going to drive us apart? Because these conversations sometimes do. We are driven to feel more defensive because we want our partner to know that we love them and we love them fully. And the thing about loving somebody fully is that we also appreciate their lived experience fully. So as uncomfortable as this conversation might be, it's important to have it and remember that the purpose of it is not to compete as to who has had it easier, but instead to understand your partner's experience and how you can support them, not just within their relationship, but also outside of it, so that they can feel safe or as safe as possible as you're both navigating building a life together in a society in which you're probably both not treated equally. If you experience some tension in your relationship because of these 5 topics or because of other topics that have to do with a difference in culture and difference in lived experiences, then it's okay. We really want to normalize that for you, that it comes up, it's common. It's also important for you to reflect and say, can some of these misunderstandings have to do with the fact that we come from different cultures? That perspective will also help ease some of that frustration, because once we understand what's really happening, it can change the way that we address what is happening. These differences also don't mean that interracial relationships are necessarily more difficult or impossible to have than same-race relationships. It just means that, like all relationships, we require communication. Taking the time to communicate with one another, to listen to one another, and understand one another will transform your relationship and will create opportunities for the two of you to connect more. Couples therapy is also a really wonderful place to do this, and if you're able to work with a culturally aligned therapist who understands this context, they can help you, again, practice and learn how to have some of these pretty uncomfortable conversations that are going to come up. Really, most relationships have to have some form of communication, and at some point we'll have uncomfortable communication. And one last note on these topics and having conversations with your partner is that a lot of these topics, and any topic that is a point of contention in a relationship, is that it is an ongoing conversation. None of these, nothing that comes up in a relationship is a one time, it's over, we'll never talk about it again kind of situation. If there's something that's bothering you, it might most likely take time to work through it, to talk to one another, to figure out and problem solve. But a lot of that means that there is commitment to working on it together, there is an openness to working together, and there's a consistency to working together. If you live in California and you're interested in...
That's a very, very, very good idea. You know, like any couple, you know, same race couple, it's all about communication. If you don't have good communication, that can ruin any relationship that you have. And I think that's the problem with some people, and that's why we really don't communicate as well as a country and as a society. Even sometimes it could be in the family. It could be something bigger that we learn this habit from our family. But anyway, I'm going to show you, you know, some more places about relationship interracial. Now we're going to show you the cities you might feel comfortable in.
And culinary scenes from world-class theaters and museums.
Hold on. Sorry.
To an array of international cuisines. London.
Damn it.
Your navigator on this thrilling quest in a world as diverse as ours. Finding a city that not only welcomes but celebrates interracial love can make all the difference in your journey, whether you're planning a move, seeking a fresh start, or just curious about the most inclusive and diverse cities out there. This video is your ultimate guide. So, are you ready to discover the cities that have been a melting pot of cultures and a haven for lovebirds from all backgrounds? Stay tuned, because we're about to unveil the top cities where love truly knows no color lines. Let's get started. Toronto, Canada, a mosaic of cultures. Let's start our journey in the vibrant heart of Canada, Toronto. This city is not just a place on the map, it's a living, breathing mosaic where every tile tells a story of diversity and acceptance. In Toronto,
over half of the residents were born outside of Canada, making it a true melting pot of cultures, religions, and ethnicities. Imagine walking down the streets of Toronto. You'll hear over 140 languages being spoken, smell the tantalizing aromas of global cuisine, and see a kaleidoscope of cultures blending seamlessly. Each neighborhood in Toronto, be it the historic Kensington Market, bustling Chinatown, or the colorful streets of Little Portugal, offers a unique cultural experience. For interracial couples, this diversity means living in a city where your relationship is not just accepted, but is part of the city's very fabric. But Toronto's appeal goes beyond just its cultural diversity. It's a city that actively promotes inclusivity and equality. From the annual Pride Parade, one of the largest in the world, to numerous cultural festivals celebrating everything from Diwali to the Caribbean Carnival, Toronto doesn't just tolerate diversity, it revels in it. For interracial couples, this environment means being part of a community that understands and embraces the beauty of different backgrounds coming together. It's a place where you can raise a family, build a career, and create a life knowing that the city is with you every step of the way. Amsterdam, Netherlands, embracing diversity with open arms. From the bustling streets of Toronto, we journey to the serene canals of Amsterdam. This city, known for its rich history and progressive values, stands as a testament to what a society can achieve when it embraces diversity with open arms. Amsterdam is a city where the old and new coexist, where traditional Dutch architecture is a backdrop to a modern, forward-thinking society. In Amsterdam, the air you breathe is infused with freedom and acceptance. It's a city that has long been a refuge for those seeking tolerance and acceptance. For interracial couples, this means living in a place that not only respects but celebrates their love. Here, you'll find an array of cultural institutions, from the Van Gogh Museum to the Anne Frank House, that tell stories of resilience and humanity, themes that resonate deeply with couples who have navigated the complexities of an interracial relationship. But Amsterdam's appeal is not just historical, it's vibrantly modern. The city is known for its cutting-edge approach to social issues, from environmental sustainability to human rights. This progressive mindset is evident in its community initiatives, inclusive policies, and vibrant cultural scene. Los Angeles, USA, a melting pot of dreams and love, leaving the charming canals of Amsterdam behind. Let's head to the sun-drenched streets of Los Angeles. This city, famous for its Hollywood glamour and sunny beaches, is also a melting pot where dreams and love stories are as diverse as its population. Los Angeles is a city of dreamers. In Los Angeles, every day is an opportunity to celebrate diversity. The city's neighborhoods, each with their own unique flavor, offer a world tour within a few miles. From the historic streets, London, United Kingdom, a global melting pot, crossing the Atlantic, we land in the historic yet ever-evolving city of London. This metropolis isn't just the capital of the United Kingdom. It's a global melting pot where history and modernity intertwine, creating a tapestry rich in diversity and acceptance. London's charm isn't just in its iconic landmarks like the Big Ben or the London Eye, but in its streets humming with the languages and cultures of the world. Stroll through the streets of London and you'll experience a world in one city. Neighborhoods like Brixton, known for its Caribbean culture, or Brick Lane, famous for its Bangladeshi community, reflect the city's multicultural soul. For interracial couples, London offers an environment where multiple cultures not only coexist, but flourish together. It's a city where your love story is part of the larger narrative of diversity and acceptance. In London, interracial couples find not just acceptance, but a sense of belonging. The city's educational institutions and workplaces are beacons of diversity, offering opportunities and platforms for all. And let's not forget the rich artistic and culinary scenes. From world-class theaters and museums to an array of international cuisines, London is a city that tantalizes all senses. It's a place where love, culture, and history come together, creating a perfect backdrop for interracial couples to build their lives. Melbourne, Australia, a haven of cultural harmony. From the historical lanes of London, let's take a journey to the southern hemisphere, to Melbourne, Australia. Known for its vibrant art scene, lush parks, and dynamic multicultural communities, Melbourne is a city where cultural harmony isn't just an ideal, it's a way of life. Melbourne is celebrated for its quality of life, and it's not hard to see why. The city is a canvas of diverse neighborhoods, each with its unique character and charm. From the Italian vibes of Lygon Street to the authentic Vietnamese culture in Richmond, Melbourne is a feast for the culturally curious. For interracial couples, this diversity means a life where their heritage is part of the city's cultural well. More Moreover, Melbourne's commitment to inclusivity extends to its policies and social initiatives. The city is known for its progressive stance on various social issues, creating an environment where interracial couples feel supported and valued. With its world-class education system, thriving job market, and a plethora of outdoor and cultural activities, Melbourne offers a lifestyle that's both enriching and welcoming. It's a city where love transcends cultural boundaries, making it an ideal home for couples from all around the globe. New York City, USA, the ultimate melting pot. Our next stop takes us to the bustling streets of New York City, a place often referred to as the ultimate melting pot. New York City is a microcosm of the world, a place where diversity is not just present, but celebrated on every corner, in every borough. Walk through the neighborhoods of New York, and you'll experience the world in a single day. Every step in NYC is a journey through cultures. For interracial couples, this city offers an environment where their relationship is a natural part of the city's fabric. Every interracial couple's story adds to the city's rich tapestry. Whether it's enjoying a romantic stroll in Central Park, experiencing the culinary delights of a diverse food scene, or just soaking in the energy of the city that never sleeps, NYC offers a backdrop where love knows no boundaries, but cherishes diversity, making it a perfect home for love to thrive in all its forms. As we draw our journey to a close, we're reminded of the incredible tapestry of cultures, communities, and connections that
Yeah, I want to mention this too. I've been to 3 of the cities: New York City, Los Angeles, California, and Toronto, Canada. And yeah, you see a lot of diversity up there. You do see it. You know, I guess you got to find out from residents themselves that live in the city how personally what they. I mean, you can go, they can say that, but everybody had their own experiences as an individual or as a couple. You know, it seems like it's some racial tensions when it comes to Los Angeles, particularly. And then I heard certain things about Toronto, Canada, but it may not mean it means everywhere. But I guess if you from Toronto, Canada, you know, you probably have to discuss that with them, like New York or these other cities. But anyway, sorry, it got so dark in here. Anyway, so basically, it's an open reason for this video was to kind of give you a good idea. I put it on another previous video about countries. Now here are the cities for you to go to. But I would probably try Australia and probably Amsterdam. I would think that would be more better. Because it seemed like, you know, Toronto, but Los Angeles and New York, I don't know. I don't know about them because it's within the United States. You know, even though it's a big population of people up there, but because you figure so many people up there, I guess when you have more diverse people, they figure that, and I guess that's how you can look at it, like they do in L.A. But I was saying, if you interracial, whether you're a black man or black woman, looking for a non-spouse that's non-black, you probably want to go live overseas. I mean, I've heard couples from Iceland, Finland, if you like Europe. A couple other people mentioned Portugal and a couple other places that I can think of offhand. But that would be, it's more open, and like they said, it's no place is perfect. But it seems like if you have children, they have a good well-rounded a range of people, so they won't be judgmental, and they won't be stuck in the American system of looking at everything as black and white and everything else in between. So they'll see people as people. And the only way I think you see people as people is you go to these other places and let your children experience the people as people, so they get used to it. And I think when somebody can come up to me among somebody can't come to them with some foolishness and like, well, them people over there are like that, and those people, they won't be so swayed because they know for themselves and experience themselves because their parents showed them. So hope this, this really kind of point out. But yeah, the counseling thing, definitely some interracial couples need that to keep the marriages, low, on either end. They say black men get more divorces than black women. I don't know about that, but it's like, hey, but it near here or there. But if you're going to be like a same race couple, it's good information. And you see how people use the Bible. So that guy debunked it, the Bible. So that was another reason why I started with this and show. And then this is the problem, because people say, well, they always have some kind of psychological problem. That's why I include the therapist in it. So they ain't got no excuse. The reason why another man or woman of a different nationality should get together. And then use spiritual, because they try to hit you with spiritual. Then they try to hit you with psychological. And then, they show you the history of the lovings. Then lastly, they show you the cities. So I hope you, if you really love each other, or you find some of a different race, you love each other, you find somebody, it's probably good to, in the future, if you're able to have something online, a passive income or some way out of it, and you don't believe in this warped section that's been on us through centuries and centuries, you probably want to go overseas. Because you're not saying that you're not going to have any problems, no issues, but you don't have to be historically, spiritually drained what has been put into our head to keep us divided. And did you know, even though we have every other nations, we both coming from all different nationalities, but do you know white supremacy kept us divided by laws? So that's one of the reasons why, and he's still trying to bring back something old to put in something new. That's why I'm making these videos, to kind of give you forewarning. So, for people that's in those relationships, because they try to turn back around and overthrow laws again. Yep. Like the Loving case, they try to overthrow that law. And they trying to make it illegal for interracial couples that get throughout the United States to marry again. They're bringing it back. Look at the article. There's an interview with, I don't know if he's a governor or representative of Indiana, and they're asking about this question. He wanted to legislate it. You see how they took down the statues and everything? Because and there's white people said they want to bring it back, white supremacy back. That's the reason why. But anyway, I don't want to go too deep in that. All right then, guys, take care, be blessed, like and subscribe and share. Till next time, be blessed and love each other. Don't let no one come between your relationship. Take care.